After Xbox's bombshell news, what should PlayStation do now? We get a deeper look at Horizon Forbidden West. And the size and scope of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is coming into focus. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm so glad you found me in the electric playground. We've got a great show for you today, but first off, a thank you to our sponsor, the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation, and they've got tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on. You can find out all about them at tgs.gg. All right, yesterday we had a very, very big topic on the acquisition of Activision and Blizzard by Xbox, and of course there were a bunch of incredible comments. I think we're about 150 comments or so right now on that video. Thank you for watching, by the way. Mucky Muck says, where were you when you found out the gaming landscape had changed? Interesting times we live in. So I've put in a couple of dedications into this episode because I got so many great comments, and I thought January would be a slow month in gaming news. Ain't that the truth? Alexandra L. actually had a very nice comment. Victor Lucas, I've been spamming your name in all the gaming servers on Discord and Twitter. Grew up watching you and Tommy. I want the channel to explode. You are an OG of gaming culture, and you grind super hard and deserve the best. Thank you so much. That's very, very kind. And Mr. Glass said $70 billion is nowhere near a trillion. It takes $999 billion plus to make a trillion. And you are correct on the math, absolutely, Mr. Glass, but I wanted to kind of use this as our sort of entree into our first topic today. It's not so much that this is a $1 trillion deal, it's that we are entering $1 trillion space with the companies going into video games, converting a lot of this idea around video games. Because, let's face it, video games are going to become much bigger than any other entertainment that we have ever experienced in the past. They're going to be way more influential in our lives than movies and TV shows and music and books and all that, because it incorporates elements from all of the best of that stuff. So we don't have $1 trillion gaming companies yet, but gaming is going to be trillions of dollars worth of business soon, and eventually we will have $1 trillion gaming company, because gaming is evolving as well. Anyways, it's a huge topic, and it's why it's our number one story today. Let's get started with your rundown. So after the news of the Xbox purchase of Activision and Blizzard, the stock price took a bit of a hit, as the internet was quick to point out. Sony had to kind of rally around its investors and assure them that all kinds of really cool things are in the works and in the pipeline. But yes, the stock price did take a fall, and there's a lot of speculation, including what we're going to jump into with yours truly right here, about what Sony should do to counter what is being perceived as a really big onslaught towards PlayStation and the PlayStation brand. And I kind of suggested in the previous rundown that this is not a Xbox versus PlayStation thing per se. I think they're the first sort of enemy on the battlefield that everybody thinks about, or opposition on the battlefield that everybody thinks about. But I think Xbox is playing a much bigger game. They are definitely looking with this acquisition, which Phil Spencer talked about on Xbox Wire this week, to kind of grow into the billions of users space. That's why King is a huge part of it, the mobile kind of division, and xCloud and streaming and Game Pass especially. All of these different disparate elements are a part of what Xbox is doing, and they're looking at competitors like Apple, I think, more than just sort of taking Sony head on. And my personal opinion is that, with Xbox kind of clearing the table with all of these acquisitions with Bethesda and with all the other studios that they picked up, and now with Activision Blizzard, it's not so much that they're going to take away games from PlayStation. They're just going to have control of when PlayStation users will get those games. So I fully expect, even though Xbox has said Starfield is going to be exclusive to Xbox, I think we're going to get Starfield on PlayStation platforms probably a year after. Because why wouldn't, this company that espouses the idea of being able to play wherever you want, why wouldn't they post their games everywhere? And PlayStation has a huge install base. It's only growing by the day, and they've got lots to look forward to. So I suspect we're going to get Call of Duty, and we're going to see that franchise continue to be an impactful one on PlayStation. because, Xbox is spending billions. Why would they take away potential millions in revenue? I also think Diablo 4 eventually will have console versions, and you'll be able to play Diablo on PlayStation. I also fully believe that Overwatch is going to be on PlayStation. I don't think that they're going to take them away. They may not be, and this is really going to be up to Xbox and their bean counters. They may not be day and date, because what obviously will be attractive for people is if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can have access to all of these huge mega brand games. But I do believe that Sony is going to eventually get those. That's really, that's an interesting kind of discussion, and there's lots of speculation that can come out of that discussion. But I wanted to get into a little bit of what Sony can do with their games coming up and their platforms. And I think one of the things that Sony really needs to do right away is leverage not just this generation's properties and last generation's properties, because pretty much you pick up a PlayStation 5 and you can pick up tons of excellent PlayStation 4 games just by being a PlayStation Plus subscriber right out of the gate. So you have access to lots of really key titles that have been so instrumental in the formation of the video game industry from the last couple of console generations. But yes, it is clearly time for Sony to answer Game Pass with its own service. They really need to make good on this Spartacus idea and come back and say, we're going to deliver not only what you saw on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but we're going to go deeper into the catalog and start doing all kinds of really cool deep dives through the history of the video game industry. Because, Sony is, even more so, I think, than Xbox, is so instrumental in the formation of what the modern video game industry is. Who knows if they're going to be as big of a player in the future of the video game industry. I suspect that Sony is going to do everything they can to be a powerful force forever and ever, and maybe, working with or against Xbox. We'll see how that all comes together. But, games grew up because of PlayStation, and I think it's time for Sony to really lean into that. Like, they've got so much wealth in their catalog and their history. Let's play it. Not just talk about it. Let's play it. You can make cute YouTube videos and history, recaps and pieces and stuff like that. But it's really important for Sony to let people have access to that back catalog in as many consumer-friendly ways as possible. And, I think that they should go right back to, if you own the discs, you can pop them into our PlayStation 5, if it's even possible, and pop the discs into the machine and they will play. I really firmly believe that this is a story about catalogs, and access to content. And Sony's got a lot of content that they can lean into. Now, that's not to say that we don't have lots of exciting things for Sony to publish and to be a partnered with other companies that are going to publish, to be excited about. First up, we've got the Horizon Forbidden West, which I'm going to talk to you guys about in a little bit here. But, we know that Knights of the Old Republic is going to be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. I'm sure it's going to be a timed exclusive, but I'm sure it's also going to be on PC as well. So this is the remake that Aspire is working on. We know that Wolverine is in the pipeline, and Insomniac is working on this game in conjunction with the new Spider-Man game. And the idea here is that maybe Insomniac and Marvel are fleshing out the MGU, the Marvel Gaming Universe, and thinking about where this can go is unbelievably exciting, because if you throw in Wolverine, you're likely also going to be throwing in other members of the X-Men, at least in this game's story, and then maybe we're going to see an X-Men game announced, not long after Wolverine comes out. Spider-Man 2, which is going to put Miles Morales and Peter Parker presumably on screen together, so we get kind of a co-op experience playing the next Spider-Man in 2023, which doesn't seem that far away now. It did last year, but we're getting there. I can't wait for this freaking game, and I'm sure tons and tons of other people out there can't. The other thing that Sony should be doing with their games, though, just like Xbox is doing, is releasing these titles, these big mega projects, on PC at the same time. They shouldn't stagger this. I know, Sony has done such a great job at being console exclusive and pushing people to its machine, but they've opened the door. You can play God of War, and I have been on PC, and it's an absolutely incredible experience. So why stagger that? Why remove the enthusiasm and the excitement and all of the marketing spend on these big releases and stagger it so that you release it again down the road? Now, there's a case to be made where you kind of double up on revenue and you get a sort of a next wave, especially as sequels are coming, like God of War Ragnarok, which is coming out later this year, PlayStation 5, and then they've already given us God of War on PC, so this will come to the PC as well. But I really believe that Sony should not only launch their Game Pass competitor, but they should absolutely release all of their big marquee games on PC as well. They should be making as much revenue as they possibly can on their investments and opening these games up to as many people as possible. And as part of Spartacus, they should also be, allowing people to stream really, really well on all kinds of other devices, computers, and phone. I know you can do that right now, but people talk about xCloud a lot more than they talk about PlayStation streaming, and that needs to change. I think. I believe that Sony needs to adopt a little bit of, we've got Play Anywhere as well. We've got our games on a bunch of different platforms now, and you can stream them to wherever you want to now. And I think that would be incredibly huge. But Sony's also working out exclusive arrangements with other partners as well. Forspoken is going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5, probably limited. It will come to the other platform as well, or other platforms. It's coming to the PC as well. So, what's happening is we're getting big projects that are releasing on PS5, but also on PC. And most of the other publishers are doing that. Almost all of them, except Nintendo, pretty much. And Sony is taking this kind of wait-and-see idea with their properties, and I think they need to kind of step on the gas with all that. Who knows if Forspoken is going to be good? It looks really cool. But yes, I think it's incredibly important that Sony keeps, if they can't make these acquisitions like Xbox can, they should be making deals with partner publishers to, retain that exclusivity, but maybe also benefit from the PC, launch of these games as well. And who knows if they're going to be able to do that? The bargaining position and their bargaining power may have been shifted quite a bit by all of this Xbox news. But I think that Sony should also be acquiring developers and launching new studios. Now, we know that they've got Haven, and this is Jade Raymond's company, and we know that they've got other studios. They picked up the Returnal team, and we know that they have been growing and their sort of development base bit by bit, and now they've got a bunch of big titles. And last I heard is there's going to be 22 PlayStation published games coming out in 2022. So we've got a lot to look forward to, a lot that we don't know about, but hopefully we've got a really, really solid year of different experiences here. So if Sony can launch their Spartacus thing, or whatever they're going to call it, the Game Pass competitor, if they can step on the gas with their PC releases, which I know is not great to hear if you're a PlayStation 5 owner and you bought the machine because you want that sort of access to that content, and you want to feel like you've got it only there and it's exclusive to your machine. I know people get pissed off about the idea of releasing it to the PC, but I think it's crazy to have these huge properties like Spider-Man and Wolverine and limit where people can access this stuff, especially when you consider that the hardware is impossible to find. And you have to think that they're launching PlayStation 4 again this year, or they ramped up production on PlayStation 4 again, because they're going to launch some kind of subscription thing as part of PlayStation, and they want as many units out there that can run this subscription as possible, And so I think to counter the backlash of being able to buy the PS5, they should offer these titles day and date on PC. And we may see that shift. I undoubtedly will see some kind of response to Game Pass. I don't know how elaborate it's going to be, but the more robust it is, the better. And the more taking advantage of the classic library of Sony, the better for their installed fans. Their longtime, what are we, 20 like 27 years of PlayStation at this point, right? Like who have been along for the haul and have probably, libraries of discs for PlayStation platforms from over the years. It would be incredible to be able to utilize those and plug them into a modern system, and they still work, and they work better than they ever have, and I know that Sony has been able to kind of use data and sort of look down their nose a little bit about that idea in the past, but I think that they should, especially now with this challenge, embrace this space on all possible fronts. So back catalog is important. The access and subscription thing is important. I think launching on PC is important. And I think staying the course with the developers that they purchase and the partnerships that they make. And there's lots of speculation of potentially Sony's going to pick up Ubisoft or EA or work out some kind of bigger strategy around 2K. I'll tell you, like, if Sony comes out and says we have done some kind of an exclusive arrangement around Grand Theft Auto 6, that is a big blast for PlayStation fans and a big sort of, firing back at all of this Xbox news. I don't know if that's going to happen, but something tells me something of that scale should be coming from PlayStation. I don't think that they should just be saying, we've also got Game Pass, and we're also going to be doing stuff on PC, and we're also, acquiring excellent developers, and we're making awesome games. All of that, I think, is going to be true, but there should also be a megaton bomb announcement from PlayStation of that scale, and I think there's very few things that can kind of crack that Call of Duty nut that Xbox just, picked up with this purchase. One of them is Grand Theft Auto. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it would benefit Sony, and it benefits the buzz around the video game industry if there is that competition. I also have been getting a lot of comments, with regards to this purchase about monopolization and Xbox getting in trouble from the FTC and antitrust groups and stuff like that. And I think you can kind of look at the lay of the land in video games and say, okay, well, if you just look at what exists today, that may be true, is like they're removing some of the competition out there. But we're just getting started with games, and the ability for people to make and publish and release and have, fan bases grow around games has never been more accessible for corporations out there. If you've got the money and the talent, there are lots and lots of ways to grow an awesome business around video games, whether it's a small-scale indie thing that explodes like Among Us, or it become like the Embracer Group, which has also been acquiring a bunch of different companies out there as well and growing slowly but surely. And they came out of nowhere. Nobody expected that. They brought THQ back out of the ether. So what I'm saying is that video games have never not been tumultuous. They've always been insane, and there's been closures and new studios launched and lots of pressure and stress and trying to kind of pick the moving target of how to publish things. Xbox has been around for a lot of that. They've made a lot of stumbles and had a lot of issues along the way. So yes, it feels a little bit like they're kind of monopolizing attention on what exists now. But the way video games are going to look in 5 or 10 years is going to be very different from the way that they look now. And subscription is going to be a huge part of it. Streaming is going to be a huge part of it. Virtual reality and augmented reality is going to be a huge part of it. Sony's got a lot of those, things percolating right now. And what they really need is to just keep investing in their state-of-the-art, published games and games that they own, and shock us with some big news story. And I think that they will. And I think that this year is just getting started. As somebody pointed out, that who knew that news this big would drop in January? And let's see what the rest of 22 has in store for us. But yeah, Sony is a bit on the back foot right now. Even if today they said, yeah, we've got a Game Pass competitor coming out, that doesn't feel as big as it did on Monday, which I think is when I talked about this Spartacus murmuring and the sort of bubbling up of this story. It just feels imminent, but it doesn't feel quite as large all of a sudden. So, yeah, that's how tumultuous and crazy the games industry is. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love my job so much, because it's always been like this. From, when I started in 1995, putting stuff together on the web and launching the show in 1997, it has been so insane and crazy and exciting and exhilarating and sometimes frustrating, but always lots to talk about. Okay, let's talk about some of the big games that are coming up. One of them is for PlayStation 5. The hype around the PlayStation 5's Horizon Forbidden West is rising as the release date of February 18th looms ever closer. It's coming up very quickly, and Sony wants the world to know that this game is something special. And from these visuals, what we're looking at here is the story trailer that they released a couple of days ago. You can really see this blend of beautiful rendered cut sequences and gameplay, and this sort of incredible mix of going from something that we see kind of like a movie, and then we're going straight into gameplay, and it's just staggering. This is going to be one of the best looking video games ever made. I mean, just look at the visuals and the scope and the scale, the environmental effects, the reflections, the lighting. And what we're seeing here is, sort of the progression of the Horizon story. Aloy has to go out west and encounter a new warlord, and the warlord has all of these different abilities and has control of the machines. And so there's this kind of interesting mix of science and technology and magic and mysticism and incredible combat, picking up on all of the great work that Horizon Zero Dawn offered us. And one of the other things that we're noticing in this trailer is that there's going to be some familiar characters that are carrying over from the previous game. Even though we're in a brand new territory, we're going to see Lance Reddick's Sylens come back, and there's going to be a lot of this progression of the mystery and the mythology and the world building, which I felt in the first Horizon, it was really well paced. It didn't really thump you over the head with this crazy amount of lore. You really you got into the head of Aloy, and then you kind of just kept unraveling, like you were peeling layers of the onion off, and you started to understand the game and the world and the history a lot more. And they did an excellent job with that. But it did feel, I gotta say, like that first game did feel like a complete package, and we got a real understanding of what was happening, and what has led us to this fusion of, science and tech and this kind of medieval sort of element that we get within this game world. So I don't know what they can really unravel and reveal that's going to feel completely different from the lore building and the world building that we saw in the first game. I think it's, from what I'm seeing in this story trailer, it feels like just more of an enhancement and embellishment of the familiar. But, I'm super cool with that, especially if we're looking at some of the most incredible visuals that gaming has ever produced. One of the other cool things that they just showed off, I believe it launched just today, is a look behind the scenes, and we get to meet the cast. And so Ashley Birch is on screen talking about her work as Aloy. She does an amazing job. And it, again, like a lot of the first-party Sony stuff, it's not just getting into a recording studio and voicing the character. They actually put on performance capture suits, and they get right into the action, and they've got the dots on the face, and all of that work, all of that data is input into computers at Guerrilla Games, and then they take it and they create real-time animations that just take your breath away, And so we see Ashley Birch in there, and we see Lance Reddick return. I love Lance Reddick. He's just such a dependable actor, and he's great in whatever he appears in. He's amazing in the John Wick movies, and he, has a commanding presence in this game as well. There's a mysterious kind of, sensibility around this character. We don't quite know his motivations and what he's all about, but super cool. And I love that he's back in this. Sylens, great character. And then what was, I think, surprise revealed, I didn't know that she was in this, is Carrie-Anne Moss is going to be playing a character named Tilda in this game. And I don't know anything about this character. And obviously this is a new component within the game world of Horizon, and she's having an awesome kick-ass moment right now, coming right off of the most recent Matrix movie, which was a bit of a disappointment, but not her. Carrie-Anne Moss was awesome in the movie. Trinity kicked ass, and I'm just happy to see her, in so many projects. And she was great in the Jessica Jones series. I don't know if you guys watched that on Netflix, but she was fantastic. So a pretty cool all-star studded cast in Horizon, with a mix of the previous performers and previous characters, and some new faces and some new voices. I'm looking forward to this game so much. And Sony's been pretty good at letting us dive into their titles a little bit earlier. I don't know. I can't say anymore. But I can't wait to play the game, and I can't wait to come back and talk to you guys about it, because Guerrilla totally blew our minds with the first one, and I think they're going to do it again with the second one. Fingers crossed on that one. Fingers are also crossed about Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Now, this game has been in development at TT Games, I think, since 1977. I think since the first Star Wars game came out. This is, no, not quite that long, but this is one of the most ambitious games. It is the most ambitious game that TT has ever put together. They released an overview trailer for this thing. We've talked about it a ton, and I'm going to run a little bit of the coverage that we've done on Lego Star Wars, and we can hear from the TT creators after we take a look at this trailer here. But this really gives you a sense of the overview and how big the scope is. We're going to go through all eras of the 9 main Star Wars movies. So all 3 trilogies, and we get to play as all the characters. We get to visit all of the different locations, and they're massive open world spaces this time. And one of the things that they've definitely done is they've upped the combat, so there's a lot more emphasis on combos, and it's a lot more ferocious. Dare I say, a little bit more mature in its complexity, and the kind of designs that they're trying to pull off here. They're trying to really kind of reimagine and reinvigorate the whole Lego gaming idea. And I think this was the first game to kind of reboot the thinking. So, behind the shoulder third person shooting, and much more elaborate and complex flying sequences with all of the different craft that you get to jump into and hop into across the entirety of the lore. And of course, there's going to be all kinds of sequences from the movies, which in more recent Lego games they've been using actual voices for, which was cool. Fun fact, the Lego Force Awakens game, I believe, if I'm not wrong, was the first time that Harrison Ford had ever voiced a character in a video game. And I loved Lego Force Awakens, but this game looks like it's taking all of the gameplay that we've known with Lego titles and just upping the ante and just making it feel a lot more like a full-on Star Wars action-adventure game. And you can jump in to any of the trilogies in any order that you want to, and I am just, floored at the amount of time that has gone into this and the scale of this. I mean, it really does feel like if we didn't have this Star Wars thing where it was like cutesy Lego characters, which I'm fine with, but they could have rendered everything to be a little bit more cinematic. This would be the definitive, and I'm saying this before the game comes out in April, but this looks like it's going to be the definitive play the movie Star Wars experience in 3D, and I am freaking excited. Even though, Star Wars is up and down, and Boba Fett's up and down, and, sometimes we love it, sometimes we don't. There's certainly a lot of really, really cool stuff to make a game out of, isn't there? It's not like Ryan Johnson made this game, and that sure sounded like I slammed Ryan Johnson. But this is a game that takes the toys, literally and figuratively, of Star Wars and lets you play them. I mean, look at this, flying through the asteroid and the Millennium Falcon, all of these sequences, and using the John Williams music, and oh my God, they showed Jar Jar Binks. All right, maybe we won't love this game. But I'm excited. I don't know how you guys feel about Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I definitely want to hear about that. I want to hear what you're thinking about Horizon Forbidden West, and also, what do you think Sony should do. All right, I'm digging this, keeping this conversation going around all that stuff. I've got a couple of quick things to tell you about here. A game called Cotton Fantasy. Now, this game is actually based on an arcade game called Cotton Rock and Roll, this is a series that's been around for 30 years, and I've taken a look at a bunch of Cotton games in the past. I'm still kind of playing through Cotton Panorama and Cotton 100%. In Games is the studio that has been bringing back this series, so they've been redoing a lot of the retro games and a lot of the classic stuff, and letting you play with filters and aspect ratio and all that stuff. But this is a new game, so this is using, it looks like hand-drawn assets and stuff like that. We get to play as a bunch of different characters. Definitely arcadey. They call them cute-em-ups. So you're these witches that have these, this firepower and all of these magical abilities, and you fight all kinds of crazy-looking little characters and stuff. But it looks quite fun. It looks like they also mix in a little bit of the Cotton Panorama kind of vibe, where you're flying into the screen. So yeah, I've dug what I've played from the Cotton universe so far. It was new to me, and it was because IN started to send me review codes for their games. Never played any Cotton stuff before, but so far I've been digging it. That one's coming out soon if you're a Cotton fan, and it looks like it's Switch and PlayStation 4, but I'm sure it will go everywhere. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is I made a little bit of a mistake with my unboxing of 1943, which is right here, right behind me, right there. I didn't know, it's part of the mini arcade replicades that I have in the background. I said that there was no HDMI out for the game, and that you had to just play it sort of collected on this machine here, which plays quite well. This is a little bit of me in action right there. You have 1942 and 1943 on the machine, by the way, and I actually have another 1942-43 machine right beside it. So two different modes of this classic Capcom shooter. But I made the mistake of saying that there is no HDMI out on this replicate, and in fact there is. I didn't know they hid it behind this little sticker, and I guess I didn't read what it said, so it's changed the TV display to fit, and I checked it out on this TV. I couldn't get it to work in the capture card that I'm using, so I wasn't able to kind of undo it or plug it in and play it for you guys live. I wanted to, but I couldn't figure it out in time for today's show. But yes, in fact, there is an HDMI out on both of those 1942-43 arcade machines, and it's also in Dragon's Lair. So I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Replicate is starting to do that. So you can pick up these classic arcade machines and then plug it into a TV and play on a tiny little controller if you want. But you can also plug in, because they have USB ports on the back, you can plug in other types of controllers as well. So pretty cool, and apologies to the Replicate folks. I did not know, but now I know. And the more you know, the better. Okay, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/EPNTV. And if you ever want to watch the rundown live, please sign up and follow our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EPN. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.